All right, in today's episode, we're going to resume work on modifying the FL5 Type-R, and in specifics, it's actually the ADS unit, or Adaptive Dampening System module. So essentially, a big popular upgrade is the Integra Type-S dampening module. So the opportunity presented itself, and a gentleman by the name of Stan in California actually hooked me up on this thing. I had no intention of actually replacing the ADS unit because I was pretty content with the comfort setting on the FL5 Type-R, but I'm actually curious to see how this car rides because I have noticed that on the highway, even in comfort mode, there's a little bit of bounciness to it, just a little bit. So maybe if we can just smooth things out a little bit, you know, in comfort mode, I'll be happy. But from what I've read, it actually takes the settings and just dials it one notch backwards to a more comfortable setting. And then R mode will be a little bit more softer than stock, but I never ride in R mode, by the way. That's basically meant for a racetrack, and especially if your car is equipped with 19-inch wheels, it's going to provide a really harsh ride. So I'm actually curious what this Integra Type-S dampening module is going to do for this car. So I'm going to actually show you guys how to remove it from the FL5 Type-R and install the Integra Type-S ADS unit. I believe there's only two 10mm bolts and a plastic panel removed, so I think that I've actually read that a lot of people actually remove the bottom of the seat, and we're going to actually see if we can do a shortcut on the removal and installation of the Integra Type-S ADS unit. So, okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get some tools, open up the rear driver's side door, and remove the ADS unit from the FL5 and replace it with the Integra Type-S ADS unit. Let's go and get started. Okay, so first things first, go ahead and open up the rear driver's side door. Okay, so the part we're looking at is actually this plastic panel right here, which is right behind the red seatbelt. So I've read that a lot of people actually have to remove the bottom of the seat, and some people say we don't have to. So we're gonna do a trial and error and see if we don't have to remove this bottom of the seat. If we do, it's not a big deal. I believe it's one 10mm bolt and a plastic clip on the bottom side, so it's not too big of a deal, but if I can show you guys a shortcut and how to remove this thing, that'll be beneficial for everyone. Okay, so first thing first, let's go ahead and fold down the seat right here. And there's my lovely spare tire from the Acura RL. Gotta love that beautiful rear trunk right there. Okay, so now that I've folded down the driver's side rear seat, we have access to this plastic cover panel right here. So I'm gonna see if I can actually pry this with my fingernail. If not, I got some plastic pry tools, so you wanna go ahead and pop this cover off right here. Let me go ahead and get some tools. Okay, so I got my plastic pry tool right here. I don't want to mar up a plastic finish using a flathead screwdriver, so let me see if I can go ahead and remove this plastic cover with this pry tool. Okay, there it is. It's even got a little hang tab right there so you don't lose this thing. Okay, so there's the access cover exposing the 10mm bolt. And you want to go ahead and take a 10mm ratchet and undo that bolt right there. Okay, careful not to drop that bolt. Remove that 10mm bolt. Okay, here's the moment of truth. If we can remove this plastic cover without having to remove the bottom rear seat. Let's see what happens. So I presume that you grab from the top right here and just gently peel away. Continue to grab from the top. And it looks like there's some plastic clips right there on the top, so be careful not to break those clips. Okay, so I'm able to pull away a little bit here. I'm gonna see if I can lift this thing upwards. Okay, so this plastic cover right here, it's giving me a little bit of trouble. But right there, that's the ADS unit for the FL5. That's the box we need to swap out right there. So I presume that this bottom seat cushion right here is in the way of some more plastic clips. And this thing is giving me a little bit of trouble right here, trying to remove this thing, and I don't want to break this plastic. So I guess we're just gonna have to go ahead and remove this bottom of the rear seat. Let's go remove this cushion. All right, so in order to find that 10mm bolt, it's a little tricky. So obviously this is the center part of the seat, going towards the driver's side. If I take my fingers through the seat right here, I can actually feel the 10mm bolt. So that 10mm bolt is about right there, and you're gonna need a ratcheting wrench right there. Let's go and grab a 10mm ratcheting wrench. What I found is the bolt is actually at an angle, just like so. So I believe the best tool for the job is a ratchet with an extension and a 10mm. Let me go ahead and get that bolt out. Okay, see how I'm holding the ratchet and extension at an angle? You don't want to strip that bolt. So I'm on it right now. Let's go ahead and undo this thing. Okay, I believe that bolt is out. Let me go ahead and carefully reach in there, see if I can grab that thing. Oh, I think I felt it drop. Yeah, I felt it drop. It is what it is. All right, let's go ahead and remove this bottom seat right here. Okay, in order to remove the bottom seat, there's actually a clip about right under here. I believe it's a plastic clip that you need to actually feel with your fingers and pull it forward. And that's in about this vicinity right here. And there's another one right here. So let me go ahead and put the camera down, see if I can feel those clips, pull them out, and then the bottom of the seat should just come right out. Let's go ahead and take care of this. All right, successfully got the bottom of the rear seat removed from the FL5, and let me show you these clips. They're a little tricky. So you got one clip right here, and you got another clip right there. Okay, in order to activate these clips, you actually got to reach under the seat, feel your way, find these things, squeeze these tabs like so, and then pull it towards the front of the car. You can see that lever releases then. And then when the seat goes back in, basically locks right in. That's basically how you remove the seat with these tricky clips right here. Okay, so here's the bolt that I dropped right there. Let me go to remove that, put it in a safe place. Okay, and right here is a 10mm bolt right here on the bottom. That's why everybody removes the bottom of the rear seat, so don't make the same mistake I made and try to remove the top one right there. So basically, in order to save your plastics, you gotta remove both 10mm bolts. Let's go ahead and take that bolt out. Okay, now we should be able to remove this plastic panel. Let's go ahead and carefully grab this thing. Okay, you gotta be careful right here because there is a airbag wiring harness. So you can't totally remove this from the car. Because if you remove this harness right here and you don't unplug your battery, you'll most likely get an SRS light and you don't want that. So let's go ahead and just carefully place this to the side right here. Okay, the plastic panel and airbag is safely set aside. Okay, it's probably gonna make it easier if I actually fold the seat down right here. So be careful to do so without having to damage that plastic unit. Okay, just don't put any weight on that seat right there. Okay, let's get that seatbelt out of the way. And now we have full access to the ADS unit. So here's your wiring harness. There's a 10mm nut right there and another 10mm nut right there. First things first, let's go ahead and undo the harness. You might need a little flathead screwdriver to help that thing out because that thing's wedged in there. Alrighty guys, the FL5 ADS unit is out. Wiring harness is unplugged. I went ahead and loosened up this nut. You don't have to take this off because there's a slot on the new ADS unit. And then I went ahead and totally removed this 10mm nut right here. You have to take that one off. Okay, so here's the FL5 unit right here. And this is the DE5 or Integra Type-S unit. So I'm gonna go ahead and compare the item numbers right here. So this looks like 39380 T60 E0M1, 393080 31M A0M1. So as you can see right here in the second part of the number, this is a T60 and this is a 31M. So if you guys need to know if you're buying ITS unit versus the FL5 unit, this is the number you're looking for, 31M. Do not get the T60. T60 is a stock FL5 unit. And since we're on the topic of part numbers, this is the Honda part number right here for the Integra Type-S ADS unit right there, just for your reference. All right, now that the hard part is over with the FL5 ADS unit removed, we can go ahead and take our ITS unit and reinstall it in the FL5. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to take your bottom slot, make sure it catches right over here on this bottom where the nut's at. All right, so that's in position. All right, we can go ahead and get this carpet piece out of the way. And then just make sure you push it right onto the peg right there. And then we're gonna go ahead and snug up the nut right here on the bottom. And then take the other 10mm nut and then go ahead and tighten things down. Now you don't need to snug this thing up too tight. You don't want to strip the threads. Just make sure everything's snug, hand tighten. And then go ahead and snug up the bottom nut right there. All right, that ADS unit is not going anywhere. And don't forget to plug in the wiring harness. Let's go ahead and put it in position and then push up and you'll hear it click. Okay, there we have it. The ITS ADS unit officially installed in the FL5. Let's go ahead and button things up. Let's go ahead and put the airbag and plastic cover back in position. And then we can go ahead and put our bottom seat back in the car. Okay, let's go ahead and install the first 10mm bolt on the airbag and plastic cover right here in the bottom portion. And then you're going to go ahead and take the second 10mm bolt and put it right here on the side. Just gonna make sure things are snugged up right now, and then we'll go ahead and tighten it up. And then put the plastic cover back in position. And just basically fold it over and push it down. Okay, there it is. Let's go ahead and fold up the rear portion of the seat, and then we'll put the bottom seat back in position. Okay guys, right into a pitfall on this reinstallation, and I don't want this happening to any of you guys, but I went ahead, took my pry tool right here, and this little flap was on there like so. So it's basically 3 tabs, so you carefully take your pry tool, pry this away from the body, and you got these perforated clips that will pop right out. So what I'm having trouble with is the final bolt that holds the rear seat bottom into position. I can't get this thing straight right here. And the threads are just not biting correctly, and I don't want to strip this thing out. So I need to get full access to this thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and back this thing out as best I can. So I'm gonna basically take my 10mm ratchet. I'm gonna take this bolt out. I'm gonna line this thing up as best I can. Let's go ahead and pop this thing out. You don't want this thing going askew. If the thing goes askew, it's gonna screw up the threads. And I just can't get precise, I guess, aim on this threads right here with the seat back in position. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take my 10mm ratcheting wrench and see if the threads will grab real easy. All right guys, I got this thing aimed up just right. It's not very hard to turn this thing, so just go ahead and take your time putting this last bolt into position, because you don't want to basically cross threads and re-tap threads and whatnot. It'll just create more work for yourself. So just be patient with this thing, and go ahead and take the approach that I took. Just take that carpet flap and your pry tool and pry those plastic tabs out of the body right here and right here and right here, and then you'll have full access to this bolt right here. Because getting this thing at the right angle, it is very tricky with the seat back and the seat bottom in position. So doing this method right here, you can actually have full access and see what angle this bolt's falling at, and actually the tension of when this thing bites threads. So I'm pretty happy I did this step right here, as opposed to cross thread and stripping threads out, because I don't have to get my tap and die set out. All right, so make sure this thing is nice and snug. Okay, there it is, the final bolt. Now we can go ahead and take this carpet flap. You see these plastic clips right here? They just fit in this hole, and this hole. So just go ahead and line this thing up. All right, so just go ahead and line these things up and just push right down. Okay, here's number 1. Number 2, and number 3. Okay, so now we can put the seat back. Okay, successfully got the interior reinstalled with the Integra Type-S ADS unit right behind this plastic cover and airbag. Okay, let me go ahead and get the tools out of the car, and I'll show you the exact tools I used for this procedure. An 8-inch 3/8 extension, a 12-inch 3/8 extension with a 10mm socket, 3/8 wrench, 10mm ratcheting wrench, pry tool, and a 1/4 inch ratchet with a deep 10mm socket, and last but not least, a flathead screwdriver. And these are the tools needed to replace the ADS unit on an FL5 Type-R. Okay, the hard part is now done, installing the accurate Integra Type-S ADS unit in the FL5 Type-R. So let's go ahead and see if we can tell a difference in the suspension. Let's go ahead and take a ride. Okay, the big question, can I tell a difference with this accurate Integra Type-S ADS unit installed in the FL5 Type-R? Definitely, I can tell a major difference. Okay, so the best way to describe this ADS unit I just installed is basically you're dialing all the suspension settings backwards one. So with the FL5 Type-R, things are a little set on the firm side, but with this Acura Integra Type-S unit, it's actually dialed one set back. And I mean, it is definitely a very softer ride than what I'm used to with the FL5 Type-R. So the FL5 Type-R had a more engaging experience with the connection between you, the steering wheel, and the road feel. But what I feel with this Integra ADS unit is it just basically soaks up all the bumps and it softens up the suspension so much where it just changes the characteristics of the FL5 a little bit too much. So I think, in my opinion, I'm not sure if I'm going to recommend this to you guys or not to pick this ADS unit up. So it depends on some certain criteria. So criteria number one, if you use your FL5 Type-R for a daily driver, I think it'd be ideal to swap this thing out, because some people might complain that the FL5 Type-R suspension is a little bit too choppy. If you daily drive this car, or number two, if you're going to stick with 19s on this car, the factory size, or if you're going to upgrade to some aftermarket 19s, I'd probably recommend sticking with this ADS unit. So for those of you that follow this channel and checked out the 1-year review of the FL5 Type-R, as you may know, there's a big change coming for this FL5 Type-R, and that big change is going to associate that with a softer ride. So I think that in my best interest, I'm probably going to be swapping back to the FL5 Type-R ADS unit. Now, I've had 2 weeks to drive with this Integra unit and experiment with the different levels on the suspension settings. So right now I'm in comfort mode. Now if I change this to sport mode, you know, I feel a little bit more firmer on the suspension. I think the sport mode is closest to this comfort mode on the FL5 with this ADS unit from the Integra. Now if I swap this thing over to the R mode, now the R mode, just a little FYI, in the FL5, I never drove in that because it was like rock hard. I mean, it's basically meant for the racetrack. But I'm in R mode right now, and I mean, this car is just very compliant and very comfortable on the road. I mean, I feel a little bit of bumpiness, but it's just nothing like I experienced with the FL5 Type-R ADS unit. You know, it does make a big difference, like I said before. So if you're looking for a smoother ride, I think the Integra unit is actually going to treat you well, and that'll probably be your best interest. But if you're looking for a more engaging experience, you know, between the road, the steering wheel, and you, I think just sticking with the FL5 ADS unit is probably your best interest. That's just my personal opinion now. I know there's a lot of varying interests on this Integra ADS unit, and I know there's a lot of talk on the forums and the Facebook groups of this unit. But, you know, it is a cost to it. I got a spectacular deal by a gentleman by the name of Stan over there in California. So Stan, if you're watching this, thank you very much for hooking me up on that price. If you were to buy this thing through, I guess, Acura, I think it costs about between $250 and $300 for this unit. So it's just will give you an idea of how much that ADS unit costs. And I'm not sure if you can actually sell the FL5 ADS unit. I've actually heard that a lot of the Integra Type-S folks are actually looking to change up their ADS unit to the FL5 ADS unit, which actually is kind of bizarre. I guess it's like, you know, we all want what we can't have, I guess. I don't know. Or we want something different that comes in the car, such as wheels or, you know, rear spoilers or whatever it might be. So I found that quite interesting when I read about that little detail. I think the ADS unit, it's a nice feature to have, and it's a nice option, but you know, personally, I'm not going to keep this in my car, so I'm actually going to reinstall the FL5 Type-R ADS unit in a few days here, because I mean, I think the ride is just a little bit too soft for me. On top of that, you know, I think the steering wheel feel, even though I've got the steering setting on plus R mode, I've always had a plus R mode because I like sharp steering feel, I just feel that, you know, it's just a little bit too mushy for my taste. Now, that's just my personal opinion now. I'm not a professional race car driver by any means. I don't think this is for me, but you know, it is a cool change if you want to make a softer suspension feel out of the FL5. But you know, I just like the feedback and the driving characteristics of the stock FL5 ADS unit. All right, so I'm going to switch the suspension from R mode back over to comfort mode right here. I mean, I can tell a difference
with how the suspension just absorbs all the imperfections of the road. But you know, as I said before, I think that it just takes away from the driving experience of the Type-R when going to this Integra ADS unit. It almost feels like I'm driving like I guess a sporty Lexus, maybe a Lexus IS, or maybe a sporty Cadillac CTS. That's just how smooth the suspension has actually rounded out installing this ADS unit back there behind the rear seat of the driver's side. So the installation is a little bit of a pain in the butt, as I showed you before, but just make sure you take your time and don't cross thread that main bolt on the bottom seat right there. Oh man, poor thing. I just saw a dead fox in the road. Rest in peace. Now, it's hard to explain. I just feel that installing that Integra ADS unit, it just makes this car feel like a luxury car, and that's not really the feel I'm going for. But you know, I understand if you guys are commuting with your FL5 and you know you got back problems or whatnot, and you just want a more softer ride, then yeah, this ADS unit will be perfect for you. But you know, if you're looking for a spirited drive and going around the track and you want the sharpest handling possible, I think just sticking with the FL5 Type-R ADS unit, that's probably going to be in your best interest. So just go ahead and save your $250 or $300. Or if you want to improve the suspension feel, you can do like I did and get the spoon lowering springs, which I have no complaints about. I love these springs. They actually improve the ride a little bit on the sports setting. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. I guess more coils per linear inch, but I'm not a spoon engineer, but you know, they just pulled their magic, and it's a moderate drop, by the way. It's nothing too extreme like a Swift spring or an iBox spring, but I'll leave that decision up to you if you want to lower your car. But this car is lowered on spoon springs, by the way. All right, guys, well, this wraps up the installation and road review of the Integra Type-S ADS suspension unit. And if you got any specific questions, please feel free to comment below, and I'll do my best to answer all questions. And if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.